This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Do you know that where you are and how things feel isn't how you want things to stay? Well, crank up the volume and get ready to cut the crap and start living the magic with Joanne Antoun and her specially selected guests. Welcome to the first day of the rest of your amazing life.
Welcome to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. I'm your host, Joanne Antoun, your transformational expert and creator of CTC, the Life Transforming Combined Therapy Cocktail. It's through the relationships we have in our lives, be they the intimate ones, friends or business, that I believe we are often given the opportunities to learn and grow the most. Our relationships are often our greatest teachers. They teach us so much about ourselves, how we view the world, how we handle our world, what we will and won't put up with, what we do and don't want, and more about ourselves than anyone possibly ever could. The key to learning the most from our relationships is being able to pull yourself out of the emotions or the distress to see what's really going on. And today I happen to have with me Derek Hart, who is also known as a relationship guy. So we'll be talking all things relationships. Derek's journey began in 1990, and now, a quarter of a century later, with over 22,000 hours of counselling people on their relationship issues, he brings his vast experience exclusively to couples. Derek spent the last 18 months recording all of his couples counselling sessions in a video format, obviously with consent from his couples. And now this 400 hours of couples healing is produced and brought to you, those that wish to learn how to love each other better. Derek's wisdoms and teachings can be found on his site, understandeachother.com. With so much to talk about, I think we should actually get straight to this show. Hi there, Derek, and welcome. It's great to be speaking
Joanne.
with you today.
How you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm great.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, you're also known as a relationship guy, but what I'm curious about is what were you doing before this? How did that come about? And what is it that actually puts you onto the path of relationship counseling?
Well, as you stated, I started in 1990, and what happened was I entered a couple different 12-step programs. One was called Codependence Anonymous, and that was a 12-step program where I was learning about relationships. And very quickly, within a month or two, I kind of picked up on that I had some pretty good advice to give to people about their relationships. Now, I was only 20 years old at the time, but what happened was people were working through all their confusion about relationships, and I had a bunch of confusion myself. And I was younger than most of the people there, actually, but I just gravitated towards helping, talking, speaking, teaching, doing lectures, standing up on stage with a microphone, and really sharing what I thought about relationships. And after a while, I kind of figured out some principles that I found to be pretty helpful for people.
So you've been doing this obviously for quite some time, and how about your personal relationships? I mean, obviously, we learn the most through our personal relationships. Have you found that they've defined you and they have also contributed to putting you onto this path?
Yeah, my relationships, I find myself in my life right now for the first time ever to not be married, but I spent the majority of my life married in relationships. And starting in my 20s, I actually had some relationships that were pretty rocky, pretty frustrating, and I found myself just not having any idea why the communication just went in circles, why there was so much stress. So I kind of dug away at this, for years trying to understand how to improve my relationships. And I would say definitely through, all the way through a very nice marriage, actually, I learned so much about how to communicate, and it gave me a lot of the tools that I teach now. And I would say I didn't have a relationship that actually ended poorly. It ended with quite a bit of communication, a lot of healing happened. Actually, there was just different life circumstances that made it so that relationship wasn't able to be the one that lasted forever. But my relationships have definitely shaped me in many ways.
Okay, fantastic. So obviously a lot of what you do has come through your own personal experience. What do you think is the primary reason why couples stay stuck in distress or arguing and can't find their way back to connection? What do you think is the trigger there?
I was doing a little bit of writing this week on this really interesting couple terms that I've come up with. I call them logistical facts versus emotional facts. And it's a really simplified way of saying couples over time get into these patterns with each other, and what happens is they start debating things back and forth and missing the emotional component of what they're trying to tell each other. So, one person reaches towards the other with information that might be really important, might have a lot of feeling behind it, and then the other person tries to fix it, tries to analyze it, gets offended, gets triggered, gets defensive, criticizes them, and the entire meaning is lost of connecting on what's going on emotionally, because they're trying to win a legal case of proving that they're right. So that's kind of a simplified way of explaining it.
Right, so you're separating the emotional stories from the facts. Do you find, just out of curiosity, that it's the women that get caught up in the emotions and the man wants to fix it with facts, and that's, she's wanting his emotion rather than him to keep on talking facts? Is that often the case? It's actually been interesting over the years, actually working with couples sitting right in front of me, where we always think of women as, wanting to connect more emotionally, and men being aloof and being distant. But I'll tell you, once we spend some time together, it's pretty often the men have been feeling criticized for so long, and they have a huge yearning to connect and be seen and understood and felt. And often the women who are, supposed to be, really great at communication have no idea to just how to sit and listen to their husband, how to really sit there with open ears and let the husband really express. So it's quite interesting how often it's occurring in both of them. Right. Okay. So you're seeing it play out in front of you. So basically, what you're saying then is that you're very much into enhancing a couple's feelings so that they're more aware of what they need to tell their partner rather than the facts. How do you do that? How do you draw that out of them during a session?
One of the things that is really key is what I do is I interrupt them. And it may sound a little bit rude at first. I actually often tell couples in the first or second session, I want you to know that when I interrupt you, it's because one or both of you has said something that's very important. And their ears kind of perk up. And it's funny, when I interrupt them later on, they stop immediately and look at me and think, what did I say that was important? And it's been a continuous pattern I've seen with couples where the very first thing out of their mouth is the exact truth of what they're trying to tell their partner, and I stop them, and then I enhance what they were trying to say.
Right. So it's getting them right into that feeling and having them focus on that rather than waffling with other stuff. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Actually, what they do is they say the first thing that they're feeling, then they go on to a whole debate about trying to prove to their partner why it's okay that they feel that, instead of staying with the original idea and really being vulnerable and showing, this is what's going on with me, and then having both partners really stop and feel that experience.
Right, so they're then going into the blame. So I feel this because of that time you did this and this and this and this and that, rather than actually just staying with that, I feel unappreciated, as an example.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And another big piece of it is being vulnerable, saying what's on their mind, and saying what they're feeling. And often they don't know how to do that because they've been blocked for so long. So, I'll have a woman that's, explaining something for a couple minutes, and one of the, and then I'll have almost a magical sentence comes to me that shoots right through everything, and I'll have her say that. So I often do this interactive thing where I actually give her the words to say to her husband. And an example, is something like, I want to be closer to you, and I don't know how.
Right.
And that brings both of them to intimacy and vulnerability very quickly because there's no longer attacking happening.
Okay. So what is it you would then do or say to make that person feel comfortable or safe enough to actually go down there? Because a lot of people do avoid this stuff. So what is it you do to make them feel safe?
So that's a great question. One of the interesting things that I kind of stumbled on by accident one time was, I was asking this man to say something honestly to his wife, and he wasn't willing to say it. And then I kind of simplified it, made it a less intense statement, and he wasn't willing to say that. So the third thing that came to me that I had him say was, I'm not willing to tell you how deprived and alone I feel.
Okay. If I could just ask, so if I could interrupt there. So I'm doing the interrupting now.
Sure, no problem.
Okay. So as an example with this gentleman, so not only are you then having to help people feel safe about what they're about to say, but a lot of people will actually hold back because they don't want to hurt the other person's feelings.
Right.
So in this particular case that you're talking about now, was that what was going on for him? He was not wanting to share what he was really feeling for fear of hurting, upsetting, having her misunderstand. We've got quite a few reasons why people hold back.
Yeah. So much is happening inside that moment. Yes, he probably, he simply wasn't practiced in being that open. He would probably have said, I'm so afraid of hurting her. That's probably got some truth to it, but a deeper truth is he's scared to reveal himself because he's been so continuously criticized by his wife.
Yeah, okay. And another thing there, because often we have patterns throughout our life. So let's just say this guy is scared to reveal himself. Do you often see that has been a pattern since childhood because he was raised to be seen, not heard, or every time he tried to speak, talk about his feelings, he was, ignored or, they weren't given the attention that he wanted. Do you often see that it's been a pattern their whole life?
Part of what I will do sometimes is go back into the history, their childhood, their parents, their caregivers, their peers, their early teenage to young adulthood relationships. They all contribute to, how the person got to the place they're at now. But what I stress, 90% of it is that this relationship right now has the power to heal that. So sometimes couples can get entirely caught in the why and where it came from. Sometimes it's not helpful at all to know that. Okay,
basically healing your life in this very moment. So getting back to this gentleman, as the analogy that you were just using, he wasn't able to, or didn't feel safe enough, comfortable enough to tell his wife how he was feeling. What do you then do to make them feel safe to do so?
Constant acknowledgement from me about what they're experiencing, because they are very afraid to show their feelings to each other. Sometimes I get the benefit of seeing a couple be the most vulnerable they've been with each other in front of me in a long time. So the way I help them feel safe is by not pushing them too much, but yet at the same time, remember, each partner is watching me interact with the other partner. So what I'm doing is I'm modeling the relationship for them that I want them to then have themselves.
Right. Okay. And would you mind sharing a story of something that you've witnessed that's, how long are your sessions?
It's quite interesting. Sometimes people have flown in or driven very long distances, so sessions can be 3 to 4 hours sometimes.
Okay, so
but I would say the typical is probably a couple hours.
Okay, so in that couple of hours, I mean, if you wouldn't mind sharing, some incredible thing that you've witnessed, a transformation as such.
Sure. I had a couple come in, and their names were Stephen and Sandra, and they fully signed off. They allowed me to talk about them, and it was a fascinating experience because they came in with what I would call years and years of book knowledge, and they've read every self-help book you can imagine on relationships. And the first hour was them both talking about how bad it is to be too dependent on each other, how bad it is to be needy and dependent, and they use the word codependent about 100 times.
Right.
And I ultimately asked them to just kind of remove that word codependent. And I did this thing where I just kind of taught them a new concept, which is basically, I believe it's very important to learn to completely fall into your partner with a deep dependence and a deep vulnerability and a deep yearning.
So if I can interrupt you there just for a moment.
For short bursts of time. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Well, we are going to head to a break shortly, but it does sound like their relationship was very much in their head because of all the textbooks that they'd been reading. I would love to finish off with this story just after our break. For the moment, we're heading into a break. I'm Joanne Antoun, and you're listening to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. Here with my special guest, Derek Hart. Do visit his site at understandeachother.com. Stay tuned, folks. Coming up after the break is more awesome conversation with Derek. We'll be right back with more.
Are you after a speaker, a trainer, a motivator that packs punch? Someone to motivate your team? Joanne Antoun, your transformational expert and creator of CTC, the 2-hour life-transforming combined therapy cocktail, or more fondly known as Cut the Crap, is your lady. One of Australia's most sought-after speakers, Joanne will have you sitting at the edge of your seat wanting more. This lady is direct and so beautifully weaves inspiring and motivational stories into her teaching that are sure to motivate your team and create at least a few ahas. No fluff here. This lady brings spirituality down to earth with grace and style. If where you are and how you feel isn't how you want things to stay, then this lady is for you. Visit joanneantoun.com for more details. Do you know that where you are and how you feel isn't how you want things to stay? Do you want to be free of the past and all that holds you back? Well, you need CTC, the 2-hour life-transforming combined therapy cocktail, or more fondly known as Cut the Crap.
I have to admit, I was a bit skeptical, but CTC has rocked my world. My past issues, even my fear of public speaking is gone, and nothing can stop me now.
Because of CTC, I can honestly say that I'm good enough. I actually love myself.
It was awesome. I should have done it years ago. Now I know that I am the power in my world.
CTC gave me back my health. I cut the crap, and now I have my health and my life back.
To find a therapist or to join the team of transformation, visit iictc.net.
Welcome back to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. I'm Joanne Antoun. Today I'm speaking with the relationship guy himself, Mr. Derek Hart. Now, Derek, when we left off, we were talking about clients of yours, Steve and Sandra. If you could continue with that story for me, please.
Yeah, so they came in with this huge amount of information, like most couples do, about how relationships work. So once I kind of explained to them a different theory of being dependent on each other and allowing that to happen sometimes, and along with that was my theory that if you do that, you can regain incredible strength individually in your own life. So I gave them this information, and it was probably the fastest I've ever seen a couple apply an intellectual concept right into their relationship. Basically, they both got permission to do what they've both been wanting to do. And I'll tell you, they were elated, they were completely happy, and they never came back to see me. and I emailed them about 6 months later, and they said, yep, it completely took, and we're loving each other, and we'll call you when we have a problem.
Okay, fantastic. So, so they're obviously very much in their head, and you, like you said, you gave them permission. That was permission to get in touch with their feelings and express from the heart. Is that right?
Permission to turn to each other and say, I need this right now from you. Can I have that? To really risk being vulnerable and needing the other person for moments at a time.
Right. Have you had a situation where you're looking at a couple and you just know that it's really, it's time for them to call it quits?
Yeah. I had one couple in the past, about 3-4 months ago, where I had to stop them about an hour and a half into a session. And we were about 5 or 6 sessions in, and I stopped and I said, I can no longer help you. And they were, immediately very concerned, why can't you help us? And I said, because it's hard enough to learn a new language of vulnerability and connection, but it's impossible if one of you is in the relationship and the other is not committed. And I basically said, I need to work with you individually for a while to discuss this. And I found out one of the partners had been having an affair. And that wasn't revealed in the session. So that was very telling that I was really accurate. And they're still very disconnected, but they're kind of in that purgatory place of not being willing to let go. But I made it very clear for them they have to both be feet in to connect.
Right. Okay. And so you connect people with their feelings, and one of your teachings is that no matter what you're feeling, it's 100% correct or accurate because it is what you're feeling and it needs to become a focus. How do you help them do that?
The difference between logistics and kind of the debating we do about, the facts of life and our feelings are entirely different things. Some people need, 18, 22, 24 hours of training to make the distinction, to learn that when my partner says something and I feel hurt or confused by it, they are still experiencing something that is real for them. The key to reconnecting is me validating them positively that they are actually experiencing that and separating it out entirely from my reactivity. That's one of the biggest things I teach.
Right. So then by you doing that, their partner is then able to see the importance of doing that. I just know, often you'll see when people are arguing, somebody might say, I feel this, or you made me feel that. And the other person will say, well, no, I didn't. I said, or I behaved like this, or whatever it is, rather than actually stopping and understanding that what the other person felt is undeniable. They actually did feel it.
Yep.
Okay, so it is about sort of having the other party recognise that whatever somebody's feeling is true for them. So let's just say they've done that. They've recognised that the feeling is true for them. How do you encourage them to heal that?
The healing of that exists inside of validating that it's really happening. So that's an interesting moment that comes with a couple where one of them finally slows down enough to hear the other, to see the other, to witness the other. They feel understood, and that's the point often where tears come out, and that's the point often where I kind of sit back and I know that the new creativity in their connection is happening right in front of me. So I can't force that moment to happen, but it heals when they feel seen by each other.
Right. It's actually ironic that your surname is Hart, because everything you do really is about love and relationships. So I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so couples that are distressed are in continuous reactivity with each other in a negative way. And as an example, and again, you'll often see this, that the other, let's just say somebody's expressing their feelings or even having a go, and the other party is really not listening because they're too busy trying to come up with what they're going to say next in their defense.
Yeah. So
how do you help people to get out of that reactivity or that pattern where they're really not listening to begin with?
Well, slowing things down very much in the session, slowing things down with the meaning of what they're trying to do. I'm actually in many ways teaching them therapeutic skills of how to be a therapist, how to listen to each other. But I'll give you an example of a really wild, crazy idea I had one time, and it's the funniest thing. It actually worked for a couple and got them to completely change how they interact with each other. I said I was really struggling with a couple that had this exact issue, and I told one of them, I said, I want you to look up at the sky, and I want you to describe the 3 moons that you see in the sky. And they were both like, what? What are you talking about? Why would I do that? And the other partner didn't know what they were supposed to do. So I said, I want you to validate your partner that they see 3 moons in the sky. And I want you to completely ask questions about those 3 moons and what they represent. Ask every question you can until your partner feels heard and understood about the 3 moons in the sky. Now that's ridiculous, right? There's 1 moon. Okay, so in doing that takes them completely out of their own personal details of the fights they have and shows them how much they need to separate the emotional experience they're having and what they're seeing from the logistics. And that just occurred to me one time, and several couples have really changed their attitude and their connecting based on that exercise.
That's actually a brilliant exercise, and so incredibly simple as well. So There's a term that you use where you say couples often react as though they're allergic to each other. What does that mean? Clearly, they're not getting itchy. Just feisty.
Yeah, allergic means that it works just like allergies. The simplest glance from one partner that would seem to be just a pleasant glance can instantly mean 100 things to the other partner. And I really coined that term one time when a couple sat down in front of me, and it was the first session, and this woman sat down and just started sobbing the very first moment before anything was said. And the husband looked at her and said, "You're being so manipulative like you always are. Why don't you wipe those tears off?" And I realized, wow, the meaning of her tears is completely lost at that point. And that's what I call an allergic reaction. There's 100 resentments that have occurred to lead him to that moment.
Right. So he's pretty much sort of like over it, overseeing her like that. So he's not paying any attention whatsoever. He's clearly caught up in his definition of it, description of it, and his emotional reaction too.
And I'll tell you something interesting that came later with that couple. The woman remembered the first session and talked about how she was using her tears to manipulate me right off the bat.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's the level of kind of chaotic confusion that happens when we're disconnected. We will do anything to get noticed.
Mm. And okay, so then what I think happens is, our behaviours are quite habitual, obviously. So you do something, it works for you the first time and you continue to do it. So for the other party, if we do allow somebody to get their own way through throwing a tantrum, we're enabling that behaviour.
Right.
So it's about then having them recognise and admit that. Is that right? And then us behaving differently as well?
Yeah. It's once again, it's slowing down those behaviors, and I help the couple when they're at that stage of having that big of an allergy to each other. Something I continuously say to them is, we're not here to be nice and be patient and tolerant. We're here to get the truth of what's going on in both of you, no matter how many cycles of communication that takes. So we go back and forth until everybody has said what they need to.
So everybody always does what works for them. If you are with a couple and you see manipulative behaviours, do you actually interrupt and point that out to them?
Now,
are you that direct?
Yeah. It's interesting. So sometimes I will stop them, but I do it in the context of the couple. So I might stop the person who's being manipulative, but I might ask the other partner, how are you feeling about the way they're talking to you right now? Do you feel connected to this person? Do you feel connected to your husband or your wife? So what can be very helpful is for the person that's being manipulative to see they're not even being listened to. And that can be a revelation for them.
So what they're doing isn't working for them, so then they would hopefully move on and change their behavior.
Yeah. 7 hours later in training, but yes.
And just out of curiosity, exactly how do you interrupt a person, and have you ever had anybody tell you just to shut up because I want to finish saying what I'm saying?
Two things. So I'll interrupt, sometimes my interruptions happen literally on the in-breath of the person before they've said any word. And what I'll say is, okay, hold on. Are you about to do this thing that you've been doing since the session started? I just want to know. If that's the case, let's slow down and observe why you feel the need to do that, because your partner is really listening to you, and you don't have to push in quite the same way you've been pushing. They're listening, something like that.
Right. So you time your interruptions well. No one has ever gotten up and punched you or anything.
No, but actually no one's done that, but what's quite interesting is sometimes people will plow right through even when I've interrupted, and then I just watch the other partner seething in frustration. But what's interesting is that gives me clues at how much they need to be heard, and that's really valuable information.
Right, and you've got a lot of these recordings on your website, haven't you? And as part of an upcoming e-course that you're creating? Yeah,
so like you said, I spent about 18 months recording virtually every couples session I could. 18 couples agreed to it. So I'm producing what you might call not just a reality show, but a real reality show this is couples and what they go through, and mixed into the videos. Just like we were talking about interrupting, I actually stop the videos every 30 to 40 seconds and throw some music up and some words on the screen to explain what's happening between the couples. So
right, so they're quite educational.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your site. So obviously your videos then are quite educational. People are actually not just watching a couple through therapy, but you're sharing text and what have you. So your website is understandeachother.com. We're actually going to go to a break, and when we come back from the break, I would love for you to share with our listeners what they can access on your site. I'm Joanne Antoun, and you're listening to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic, here with my special guest, Derek Hart. Do visit his site at understandeachother.com. Stay tuned, folks. Coming up after the break is awesome conversation with Derek. We'll be right back with more.
Are you after a speaker, a trainer, a motivator that packs punch? Someone to motivate your team? Joanne Antoun, your transformational expert and creator of CTC, the 2-hour life-transforming combined therapy cocktail, or more fondly known as Cut the Crap, is your lady. One of Australia's most sought-after speakers, Joanne will have you sitting at the edge of your seat wanting more. This lady is direct and so beautifully weaves inspiring and motivational stories into her teaching that are sure to motivate your team and create at least a few ahas. No fluff here. This lady brings spirituality down to earth with grace and style. If where you are and how you feel isn't how you want things to stay, then this lady is for you. Visit joanneantoun.com for more details. Do you know that where you are and how you feel isn't how you want things to stay? Do you want to be free of the past and all that holds you back? Well, you need CTC, the 2-hour life-transforming combined therapy cocktail, or more fondly known as Cut the Crap.
I have to admit, I was a bit skeptical, but CTC has rocked my world. My past issues, even my fear of public speaking is gone, and nothing can stop me now.
Because of CTC, I can honestly say that I'm good enough. I actually love myself.
It was awesome. I should have done it years ago. Now I know that I am the power in my world.
CTC gave me back my health. I cut the crap, and now I have my health and my life back.
To find a therapist or to join the team of transformation, visit iictc.net.
Welcome back to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic. I'm Joanne Antoun. Today I'm speaking with the relationship guy himself, Mr. Derek Hart. Now, Derek, let's talk a little bit about your website, what the listeners out there can have access to, where they can find out a little bit more about you. So as I mentioned, your website is actually understandeachother.com. What do you have there?
So up there I have 3 of the videos I was just talking about a moment ago. A pretty nice video series. They're right there on the front page, and each video that's about 5 to 10 minutes has a handbook with it, which is actually a recreation of the video with a little bit more training inside of it. And then you'll see some interesting things in the blog section, some interesting interviews and other videos. And there's a contact page where if you contact me, right now I'll send my book out. It's a 60-page book. It's not terribly long because it's mostly pictures of actual couples in my video series, but it's pretty informative. And
that's a download, is it? Is it an ebook?
No, that's not. Yeah, send me an email on the contact page. I'll send you the book if you like.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah,
fantastic.
I'll do that. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And sorry, go on.
The purpose of the website is going to become live in about 30 days here. I wanted to take some of this video and turn it into a real course for couples. So my goal is to help as many couples as I can with some of the main themes that I've distilled here over the years. And the way that's going to look is it'll be about an 8-week course, and couples will be on coaching calls twice a week with me. And what will happen is I'll actually be coaching couples while the other couples are listening. So, kind of the concept of it takes a village to raise children. Well, I'm kind of going for the concept of it takes a village to raise couples. And my goal is to have couples out there listening and understanding and learning from each other while I give the coaching. So it'll be a tremendous amount of training for 8 weeks. It'll get couples back on track. I believe it will save marriages. I believe it will help people recognize where they're stuck in their relationships, and that's coming about 30 days from now. So just send me a contact if you're interested in knowing more about that.
All right, wonderful. And currently, do you treat or see clients online as well as in person?
Yeah, I can do online. I can do Skype. It's actually pretty effective just doing the phone. Sometimes I found that with Skype, some people are a little too focused on their cameras and the technology. But I do great healing with couples, throughout the country and soon throughout multiple countries over the phone. So yes, I've gotten some great feedback from couples doing that.
Right. Now, you've often mentioned throughout our conversation today that you get couples to slow down. That's when you say get them to slow down, is that literally interrupting and getting them to stop and think about what they've said and heard and break it down? Is that what you're saying then?
Yeah. So slowing down might literally be kind of slowing down your speech, slowing down your thoughts, slowing down, the words you're saying. But slowing down also has the meaning of realizing something I said before, where the very first thing out of a couple's mouth is often the truthful thing they want to say. Then they continue talking for 10 minutes. So slowing down can often mean, wow, you could make life a lot easier on yourself if you recognize the first thing you're saying is the deepest part.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I totally understand that. So you often say that you don't help couples solve problems, although you're obviously healing relationships and what have you. Is that because you feel that what you do is helping them see what the issue is and they're actually doing the solving?
Yeah. So sometimes I think of it as, a couple shows up and they have all these problems that they're fighting about, and what I know some healers do is they just kind of jump in the pool with them, and everyone's kind of dog paddling, trying to solve the problem even harder. So the problem is that they're fighting about the logistics of life, but they both have 50-pound backpacks on filled with emotional, baggage, literally. That's what they're really fighting about. They're fighting about this whole undertone of, I don't trust you, I don't feel like you have my back, I don't feel understood. That's the real fight. I want to help them move directly to the real fight, which is that. Only then can they solve the rest of life's problems creatively.
And how do you help them deal with their emotional baggage? Let's just say they've brought their emotional baggage into the relationship. How do you help them deal with that?
Well, their emotional baggage, one thing I said before was, maybe it comes from childhood, their teen years, their parents, their previous relationships. In kind of my view of relationships, it doesn't heal until this partner right now that you're with can see the deeper meaning of what you're going through. So, I know we have therapy, and you can spend a long time, kind of processing what's going on with you individually. That can be very powerful. I think the relationship is equally as powerful, because when I get seen by a partner, I heal. I go out into the world with lower blood pressure. I'm calmer. I'm excited to, go out and conquer the world. That's what I call real healing, being understood by this close confidant, that sleeps in my bed every night.
Absolutely. So, because you've all got your own emotional baggage and what have you, but if you have the love and support of someone at home, it certainly does make a huge difference. So how about sharing another story with us, if you don't mind?
Sure. Let's see. One of my favorite stories, I'll share a little bit about the story that you will see on my homepage if you go to it on the understandeachother.com site. There's 3 videos up there, and that actually will turn into a 10-video series pretty soon here. And it's a story where one woman did not have enough touch in the relationship. She wanted more touch. Actually, the name of the video series is "I Want More Touch and I Don't Know What to Do." And to kind of make a long, a year-long story short about how we kind of handled some of that, she wants more touch, and he feels like he can't give it to her. And the deep healing came for this couple when we slowed things down enough for him to admit that he feels constantly criticized about not giving her enough affection. And he feels constantly scared that she's going to go seek it out elsewhere. And he feels confused and has some shame about the fact that he doesn't feel safe at all because of all these things, which makes him want to touch her less. So, once again, we can't heal that by problem solving and coming up with like a touch schedule on a calendar or something. So once we slowed down enough, and she really felt how he's just thinking about this all the time, stressed about this, feels criticized. Once they both admitted that, then the tears came through, and they now have the ability to solve this problem without the emotional baggage. They can solve it in a completely different way because they're actually only talking about touch between them both, not their history of triggers and defensiveness and criticism. They moved that out of the way.
Right. So often in a therapy session with a couple, an argument might start, and you do believe it's important for them to have their argument or the actual argument there in front of you instead of talking theoretically about their arguments. Why do you do that?
So, I think it happens almost every time in my first session. Because I don't kind of play the game with them of trying to troubleshoot and solve, logistics, I actually start validating them and kind of relating to their emotions. I kind of have to bring them both inside of my world, experience what it would be like to be them, and then I feed it back to them. I think I provide a sense of safety very quickly, and they wind up getting in a real conversation very quickly when they feel safe, and that leads to an argument. And I let that go on for 15 or 20 minutes sometimes when they do it for the first time, so I can really see the cycle that they go through. And I think they often feel very safe how strong I am to let them have that experience. It also gives me 100 clues as to exactly what they're doing to be allergic to each other and to trigger each other back and forth.
Right. Okay. So you also believe that our romantic relationships are our biggest opportunity for self-growth. Can we head down that path for a little bit?
Sure. So there's a myriad of ways to heal. There's self-help. We want to eat right. We want to exercise. We want to get enough sleep. We want to have friendships, and we hopefully like our job, our career. And the reason I wanted to focus on couples was how much I saw the healing of a couple make people feel stronger individually in their lives. It affects just everything. It's been measured that it affects people's blood pressure. There's been extensive studies on how much more well-adjusted you are in the world, because you really do bring this partner with you in your mind. They're with you all the time. And just the opposite, your life can be, hell on earth simply from being disconnected and arguing over and over, with this one person. So I just think it's a very powerful way to heal. There's other ways to do healing, but I think this is amongst the top ways.
Well, it is through our relationships that we obviously, learn so much about ourselves, possibly our manipulative behaviours, what we do to get what we want, what we will and won't stand for, etc. What are some of the greatest growths that you've witnessed in a session? When someone has that wake-up call. The greatest growth, that moment in time where somebody has actually just realised what they've been doing all these years, and you've witnessed that aha moment.
Yeah,
would you mind sharing maybe a couple of those? Because that aha moment, our life can change in an instant.
Yeah. I think we're dangerously close to the cut the crap idea here. Actually, when a couple is sitting there and one person has the tremendous courage to say something that they've been hiding for years, and the other partner says, I had no idea you felt that way. I've been thinking you just hate me. And they connect at that moment. That's actually usually when I call the session done, because there's no point to go further, because they've hit the perfect moment of being deeply felt, deeply seen, deeply understood, and then they can solve all their own problems from that point.
Right, so you allow them to sit in that moment, in that feeling.
Yeah.
Okay. So people can find out more about you at understandeachother.com and obviously contact you through that site. Do you have any speaking engagements at all coming up, anywhere that people might be able to see you live?
No, not at this point, because I'm getting this whole internet training system prepared. It's kind of taking all of me. I want to have 20 lesson plans available, and but 20 to 25 videos available, so we can do a lot of good stuff in the 8 weeks. And then for people that join the course, what happens is we record every coaching session, so if you ever miss any, they're always recorded. And it'll just be a tremendous amount of material that goes right to the heart of the matter from different perspectives and different couples. So you're bound to pick up on exactly how one couple might relate to your difficulties. That's the goal.
Okay, and you've also got videos on YouTube, is that right? I'm just wondering where else can people find you?
Yeah, you can, as soon as you go to the website and you click any of the videos or in the blog section, you're actually watching a YouTube video. That video itself will take you directly to YouTube if you want it to. And there's a YouTube channel. If you look for my name, Derek Hart, DerekHart, I believe I do pop up first with my name on YouTube, worldwide. And you can subscribe to the channel. And there's a bunch more videos on there. And we can do some great learning from those.
Okay, and I'd love you, Derek, if you don't mind, to leave our listeners with a key message. What would your key message be for them in their own personal relationships and life?
Yeah, that's a great question. Learn the difference between the logistics and the debating and all those facts that you're fighting about, and learn the difference between that and the emotional stories you're trying to tell each other, because those are the things that are not being clarified and felt between you both, and that simplifies all the other struggles.
Right. Do you actually, just out of curiosity, do you often recommend people to write to each other if they're highly allergic to each other? You know, when people just cannot be in the same space because things have just gotten so out of control. Do you ever recommend that they put their feelings down on paper if they're still not comfortable to express it?
You know, one of the goals is the interactions that I set them up to do in the room with me.
Yep.
I actually haven't had anybody not willing, but with this course I'm building, there's a tremendous amount of exercises that are helpful to a couple. I'll tell you one that is
wonderful. Sorry, Derek. We're actually going to have to call it a show. Yes, we're out of time. But you can find out more about Derek at understandeachother.com. Thanks very much, Derek. It's been great having you on the show.
You've been listening to Cut the Crap and Start Living the Magic with Joanne Antoun. Tune in every second Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, as Joanne and her specially selected guests inspire you to live each moment of your life with absolute love and passion. Want to connect with Joanne directly? Visit www.joanneantoun.com. That's joanneantoun.com, and find out just how easy it is to heal the past, live in the present, step fully into your power, and easily create the future you desire.